Welcome to Access Academy. For all of you Braille enthusiasts, we are excited about UEB Math Science and Nemeth Code within UEB Contexts. I remember the date, January 4th, 2016, the official day of the changeover, as if it was yesterday, and maybe you do too. Today, we will gain insight into what is working well and what are some of the challenges that teachers continue to face. Also, you'll walk away with strategies and resources. Today, for perspectives on math Braille codes. Let's get excited about UEB Math Science and Nemeth Code within UEB Contexts. We have Alexis Redford that's going to be presenting today on behalf of the University of Utah. We also have Tina Herzberg representing University of South Carolina Upstate. And we also have Clark-Bischke from the University of Utah that all three will be sharing content today. And we'll go to our objectives. By the end of our time today, we hope that you will be walking away. We are going to have 3 objectives that we hope that you will be able to describe results of a survey that was completed by 176 TVIs that will be addressed. We're going to identify 3 strategies and resources that can be used to teach Nemeth Code within UEB context to students who read Braille, and identify 3 strategies and resources that can be used to teach the UEB Math Science to students who read Braille. We are so glad that you are with us today, and we are eager to start learning.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amy. So yes, in the spring of 2024, we sent out a survey nationwide to teachers of students with visual impairments. We wanted to understand their perspective on the use of the 2 math Braille codes. Our goal was to understand what they're using, how they're using them, and any barriers to using them. Our survey participants consisted of 176 teachers from across 36 different states in the US. The states with the most responses included California, Georgia, Florida, and Indiana. We found that most TVIs sought out a different or a variety of ways to learn one or both math Braille codes, including attending a university preparation program, district or state level training, and online resources. Additionally, we found that 107 participants indicated that their state has a default Braille code. We found that 86 TVIs primarily use the Nemeth code in their locations, and 27 TVIs use UEB Math and Science in their locations. Part of our survey was asking TVIs how they felt their competency level was when using or teaching UEB Math Science. We found that most TVIs using UEB Math Science felt that they are at a beginner level, with the least amount of TVIs indicating that they had an advanced competency level in using and teaching UEB Math and Science. When asking the same question about Nemeth Code competency levels, we found that many TVIs answering this question felt that they had an intermediate understanding of using the Nemeth Code and teaching it with their students. Interestingly, many TVIs for both math codes indicated having a beginner's competency level. I think it's fair to say that this indicates on some level how much training or support in this area TVIs are getting from university preparation programs, online resources, and other trainings offered. It might also account for TVIs whose caseloads might not have students who are learning advanced or even intermediate Braille. And so maybe that's why we have a lot of TVIs at that beginner level. In our survey, we wanted to understand factors that influence the math Braille code taught. We found that most TBIs are influenced by the curriculum available to them. We had 36 TBIs indicate this. Additionally, TBIs are choosing the math code based on textbooks or test availability. And then again, a high number for those who have a state default Braille code. Interestingly, the age of the student is a factor for many TBIs, as well as the individualized education plan team decision. Some teachers noted teacher knowledge and experience playing a role in which math code they use. And then personal preferences from students, teachers, and parents also influence the math Braille code taught. Other TBIs noted outside influences or even other influences. Looking at UEB Math and Science barriers to teaching, we found that many TBIs don't know or don't teach UEB Math and Science. We found that tests, textbooks, and materials are not being or available in UEB Math and Science. Many TBIs noted that they have a personal preference for Nemeth Code, and so that's why they're not teaching UEB Math and Science. And then 11 TBIs noted a need for additional training in UEB Math and Science. 8 TBIs mentioned the fact that we have 2 math Braille codes in the US, and so they've picked one. Others indicated or acknowledged incorrect rumors and biases against UEB Math and Science amongst professionals. And so that might be some barriers for some TBIs not teaching UEB Math and Science. 7 said that there are no barriers perceived, and 6 said that their students have a preference for which math Braille code that they use. And additionally, another 6 TBIs mentioned issues with UEB Math Science devices like the Braille Sense. Additional barriers to teaching UEB Math and Science include mentions of it being difficult for TBIs and students to learn, the time it takes to teach UEB Math and Science, TBI's confidence in their ability to teach UEB Math and Science. Some TBIs mentioned that students who have to transition from Nemeth to UEB Math and Science, that it might be difficult for them. 3 TBIs mentioned a lack of UEB Math and Science materials and resources in their area. 2 TBIs mentioned that their students transitioning from one TBI to another and the varied knowledge of TBIs in UEB Math and Science may impact that student's performance. 1 TBI had a parent preference for which math Braille code was taught, and 1 TBI only teaches UEB Math and Science through elementary, then switches to the Nemeth Code. When we looked at barriers to teaching the Nemeth Code amongst TBIs, again, we had a large number of TBIs that do not know or do not teach the Nemeth Code. This could be because they don't have students working with the Nemeth Code, or they primarily use UEB Math and Science. Some other barriers mentioned were code switching, tests, textbooks, and materials not being embossed or available in the Nemeth Code. There was a need for more training and resources for TBIs. Some TBIs mentioned issues with refreshable Braille displays accurately displaying the Nemeth Code. Some TBIs mentioned time to acquire the materials, time to teach, etc. And then 2 TVIs mentioned that they do not have a math background, which makes it difficult to support students within the Nemeth Code. Additional barriers from a couple TVIs include many TVIs or many students, sorry, coming in knowing UEB Math and Science, and or the TVI, having to transition them to Nemeth for various reasons. A student preference on which code to learn. This one came up again. Other barriers being support from other professionals, TVI preferences, misinformation about the 2 Braille codes and which one is better, and then the expense of textbooks. So overall, we had a wide range of TVI experiences and feelings of what prohibits them from using one code or the other.
So, given all of that data and knowing that it is critical that TVIs are prepared and able to teach one or both math codes to their students, we wanted to take some time and identify resources and strategies that are available to us in the field. And maybe those of you who are aware of other resources or strategies, feel free to share that in the chat and we'll collect that information at the end. But we wanted to share with you what we know exist, because we are finding that one of the key reasons that TVIs are not using UEB Math and Science is a lack of awareness of what resources are out there, what's available for TVIs to use with their students. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that everyone is aware of the key UEB Math and Science codes, codebooks, and guidelines. Hopefully everyone is aware by now of the rules of Unified English Braille, the codebook that can be found on the International Council of English Braille website. And make sure that you're aware that there's a 2024 edition. So it has been updated. If you're not aware of what the changes are, please take some time to look. Hopefully everybody is teaching all of your students UEB now and the EBAE, even though EBAE was a great code, we need to be moving on. So hopefully everybody is using UEB with their students now. There is also a document, if you haven't seen this already, called the Provisional Guidance on Transcribing Mathematics in UEB, which is available on the BANA, Braille Authority of North America website. And also available on the BANA website is a graphing calculator guidance for transcription using UEB. So some great resources that every TVI should be aware of. Additional codebooks and guidelines, you've got the Unified English Braille Guidelines for Technical Material, which is also on the ICEB website. These are the key guidelines that we all need to have access to for teaching our students UEB Math and Science, or what some people refer to as UEB Technical. Just a heads up that the International Council on English Braille is currently working on a 2nd edition. Hopefully that will come out soon, so we'll have additional guidance on UEB Math and Science, additional examples and information that can help us as TVIs and university faculty and parents and others better prepare our students in UEB Math and Science. And there is also, wanted to make sure you're aware that the Science of Operation and Comparison, Section 3 from the Guidelines for Technical Materials was updated in 2018. Another excellent resource that's available on the web is the Hitchhiker's Guide to UEB. It provides some general basic information on UEB, but it's got some great things for those of you who are beginners or those who are not familiar with UEB Math and Science. This is a great document that can help you get a start in UEB Math and Science. Some online resources that you may or may not be aware of is there's APH has a great UEB Math reference booklet that is available in print and in Braille. APH also has a UEB Math tutorial that has several different sections or chapters that focus on key items. You can go through and read the information section. There's some problems that you can actually work to see if you're understanding it correctly. There's also UEB Online, which is another excellent resource. They have 3 different math lessons that you can complete. They've got the beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced, and they have great examples, great explanations. So that's another wonderful resource out there. And then the Canadian National Institute for the Blind also has a UEB technical course. If you're looking for certification in UEB Math and Science, I do know that the UEB Online and the CNIB courses do allow or do provide certification for a small fee if you're interested in documenting your skills in UEB Math and Science. Additional resources from the National Braille Association. They have UEB Math Science reference sheets, again, available in print and Braille. There's a document using UEB in technical materials. There is an excellent document on grade 1 and capital indicators. I know many of the TVIs with whom I have worked have expressed frustration specific to grade 1 indicators, but let me say that once you get an understanding of the grade 1 indicators, it's not as confusing or complex as you might think. So this is a great document to help with that. And then there's also UEB Technical, Algebra, and Geometry, another great resource that they have. Looking at more tangible student-focused resources, focusing on some from APH, they have math drill cards in Braille and large print. They have addition, subtraction, and not included on this slide, but they have since provided multiplication and division math drill cards as well. So APH is working with us to create additional resources in UEB Math and Science so that we are and can be better prepared to teach our students. They have feel and pill stickers in UEB print and Braille numbers. They have flip over concept books telling time and fractions. So again, and we all need the feel and pill stickers. Those are so fun. Kids love those stickers.
It's amazing just how many more resources that we have, that if we had done the same presentation even 2 to 3 years ago, we wouldn't have had all of those resources. And so I just feel extremely fortunate that every day it seems like that I'm learning about a new resource, and I hope this will continue. And this is for both of the codes. So Chris talked a little bit about some other resources that we have for UEB Math Science, and I'm going to talk about a few that we have for the Nemeth Code within UEB Context. So we are also very fortunate that we have a code book. Now, this is like the amazing thing to me is that we now have a Nemeth code book that actually has a search feature in it. So, because we didn't have that beforehand, it is just so much easier to find what you're looking for. It says 2022, but it really, even though it was approved in 2022, we really didn't get access to it till last year. So if you haven't had a chance, I really do suggest that you go ahead and take a chance or take a time just to kind of go through the document. They have some fantastic examples with it. And then they also, on the Braille Authority of North America's webpage, have the graphic calculator guidelines, as well as the chemical notation using Nemeth Braille code. Now, all 3 of those are available in print and Braille. So it's exciting. It's been several years ago, but we realized that we didn't really have a resource that we could use at the university level to teach individuals in preparation the Nemeth Code. And so what happened is that Penny Rosenblum, Sarah Osterhaus, and Sarah Larkin and I actually wrote a book, and it's a step-by-step guide. And so even though it was originally intended for pre-service individuals, Once again, I hope that you'll find that there's a lot of great examples that have been embedded throughout the book. And then we also give some really um, comprehensive teaching strategies in the book as well. They're all available in print and Braille. Now, I will have to say that we are right now just in the process of trying to seek some grant funding so that we can update this, because we know now that we have the new updated guidelines code book that we really need to do this. So hopefully that'll be coming soon. And then hopefully after that, we'll get more grant funding and be able to also do the very same thing for UEB Math Science. For online resources, the APH Nemeth tutorial. This is really great. And what I love about this is that you input the exercises and just immediately you get that feedback of how you are doing. So just if you're trying to like maybe, brush off your skills a little bit, or, just want to like check something out, this is another really great resource. APH, we talked about earlier about their reference booklets. So when you order these, you actually get both the Nemeth as well as the UEB Math Science all in like one booklet kit. They're available in print and Braille as well. So two other resources. Now, the Nemeth at a Glance was actually one of the very first items that was published after we transitioned to Nemeth Code within UEB Context. And what I particularly like about this, there are two different items. Is first, it has a grade level chart. So if you're just like looking and you're thinking, oh, I'm working with a, fifth grader, they're new to my district, what kind of symbols should they know and what kind of symbols can I expect they're going to learn this year? They have it. And the nice part about it is that even if you don't live in Texas, they're very similar. So really like their grade level chart. This could be used also for, UEB, because it's like the same symbols. I mean, they're different codes, but they're at the same grade level. So, this is the year they're going to be introduced to fraction. This is the year they're going to learn about radicals. And then the evaluation tool. Now, it is a Nemeth Code evaluation. And that way you can really very easily kind of understand where exactly your student is and which of the symbols that you really need to concentrate on. So it's a great resource. The Nemeth reference sheets are available from the National Braille Press. There's both print and Braille. Now, what's really interesting about the Braille, and one thing that I know I've seen lots of like students in the classroom with a copy, they also include as part of this it's raised, but the print. So you'll have right there what it is a Nemeth for like the less than sign, and then right beside it, it gives it like a tactual of the raised of what it would look like in print. And so the nice part about it is the students have access, but I've also seen it where like the teacher can help them if they're looking for something as well. So the Nemeth Braille Code curriculum, this is also available on the Path to Literacy website. So I worked with Susan Osterhaus and Sarah Larkin, and it literally took us several years. We developed a comprehensive Nemeth Braille Code curriculum. The great part about it is that you literally can just download it. It has lots of resources for you. On the next slide, it shares just a little bit about the pre-K through the second grade curriculum. So it teaches students to read and write Nemeth Code within UEB context. And I think it's really important that it teaches them in the context of math. So just like when we went to kindergarten, we didn't learn all of the math symbols we were going to use in the first 5 years of school. We just were introduced to them very kind of slowly as we learned the math concepts. Well, this is exactly the way that we did this in the curriculum. So as they're introduced to addition, then they learn the addition sign. When they're introduced to less than, they learn the symbol. It's aligned with the Common Core state standards, and there are a variety of hands-on games and activities that you can use. So this has teacher scripts, Braille ready files that you can literally just emboss. There's answer keys. So, hey, if you're still brushing up on your skills, no worries. You have every answer. There's data recording sheets. So that way, as you're preparing, kind of keeping data as you go along, you'll know exactly how your student's doing. There's review activities. And then there's also an assessment at each end of the grade level. So what we also did is we created what we called focused Nemeth lessons. And so these really could be for students of any age that, especially if they need additional practice or this is a new concept that they are learning. So the 5-step rule and exceptions, we use this a lot in geometry as well as repeating decimals. And so within these focus lessons, there's actually like 5 or 6 lessons within each broader topic. There are several lessons on fractions and mixed numbers. There are lessons on multiplication and division. There are lots of lessons on number lines. We love number lines, and they're such a great tool for teaching math. So lots of content about number lines. And then we finished with radical expressions. So this is an example of fractions and mixed numbers. So at first they learn how to write them linearly, and then afterwards they learn how to write them spatially. Now, what I absolutely love about the picture of the Braille on the right side, this is literally some of the problems that they learn to write. And I will tell you that when I've actually done some of the lessons with students, which that has been a lot of fun, is that we actually work out the math problems. And what I have learned that some of them thought it was going to be so hard to like set them up spatially, and they really weren't. And so a lot of fun. And then when they go into their math classroom, they're ready to go, that they understand the concept of how they would write them and then also how they would be able to read them. So the next slide is a little bit about graphing points on a number line. And so what it has is says graph the following integers on a number line. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And so what happens is that would be the instructions for the students, and then the students would actually create it. So what we have here is the answer key or the symbol of what the answer key would look like. And so once again, that way you would have all the answers along the way. We also went ahead and included descriptions of what the number lines entailed with each one of those as well. Now, I will say that with like all of the focus lessons is that we start each time with a symbol list. And so students are kind of introduced to just a few symbols at a time. So for this one, they'd already learned how to like write the axis line. They knew how to write the closed circle. And so this is when it was time to like kind of put it all together after they had learned about the symbols, they had been reading and then actually going through number lines, and now they were ready to actually learn how to make them themselves. And then the last component of the Nemeth curriculum was a Nemeth symbol library. And so what happens is you go to this web page, and what we try to do is that we literally just try to come up with like every math term. So we're talking, at first we were really only going to do it for the higher grade levels. But what happened is that, we kept on hearing, but what about, wouldn't it be great if? And so it went from high school to middle school and high school to now all the way from elementary through high school. But there's 600 examples at the different grade levels. There's also a tutorial. Now, what I also love about this is that, totally accessible with a screen reader and with the tutorial that it just takes you from like step one of how that you can utilize the Nemeth Symbol Library. So there are 240 math terms and 136 definitions. You're like, well, wait a minute, you have only 136 definitions, but 240 terms. How did you do that? Well, so let's give you the example of exponent. In Nemeth, you might hear the word superscript, but in a math class, you also might hear the word power. So what we did is that no matter which term you selected, it takes you to the same definition. Because what we find out sometimes is that if you don't know exactly what something's called, it's kind of hard to find. So we try to think of every math term you might hear, and then we took you to the definition and the examples. So Nemeth Code within UEB Contexts, some resources from APH. Now, this is not everyone that APH has, but this is several of their fantastic ones. So there are drill cards in both large print and Braille. There are the math and subtraction cards. They have the quick pick math, addition, and subtraction. I was just over at our School for the Blind today, and I saw this, and I was like, yes, I just love it. Addition and subtraction table, you know, once again, it just, what a blessing, because this is another one that sometimes like students are really struggling to learn their facts. This can be the difference really for them being able to do the math by having like the addition and subtraction table and the multiplication division table. Really easy to teach them to use, and that way they can continue in their math learning. So fantastic resources if you haven't checked them out. So now we want to talk about a few resources that actually you can use them both if your student uses UEB Math Science and or the Nemeth Code within UEB Context. So going back to the curriculum that I talked about just a moment ago, with the pre-kindergarten, we have all kind of different activities. And so what happens is that we use foam stickers, a craft stick, and then flashcards labeled 1 through 7. So we go ahead and tell you exactly how you make the flashcards with Nemeth, but it would be very, very easy just to change it to what a UEB number, right? Everything else would be the same for this. So what happens is that the student shuffles their flashcard, and this is after, because they're in pre-kindergarten, they're all the way up to learning 7. We take them all the way through 10 by the end of the year. So what happens is that they shuffle the flashcards, then they draw a card, they read the numeral on the card, and then afterwards they use those stickers to build their train, and they really love it. Now, what we tell you to do at the very end of the activity, say, hey, hold on to the trains that your student makes, right? Because what happens later on is that when they're learning to write the numbers themselves, is what we do is we use the craft sticks, they count, which, you know, cardinality and knowing how many, what a great use of them. So like on this one, there would be 7, and then they learn to write the number. So we also try to give you a couple different ways that you can use everything that you're making along the way with the activities. This is another one of my very favorite ones. I cannot tell you all, I can do like 100 different fun activities with the hundreds chart. I am really serious. Give me, and this is fantastic because notice they don't use the numeric indicator. So this works beautifully for UEB Math and Nemeth, right? So what we did here is that I repurposed, right? Repurposed a hundreds chart. So what we did is that, because this is something they learn to do in kindergarten, is to be able to rebuild a hundreds chart. So it's really important that our students can do that as well. Because the APH hundreds chart has both the print and the Braille, they can do this activity right along with their peers. They can actually do it in small groups with their peers. And so that's exactly what they do, is that they rebuild it. And so what happens is that you start off where they don't, like you slowly kind of built. So this is the one after they've already put together. Like at first I might actually do it where they have like, you know, maybe like 1 through 40. and then maybe 40 through like 70, and then 80 through 90. So it's much easier for them. And this is like, oh, wait a minute, we're like big time now. We know how to do it by our tens. We're going to be super tricky. Let's see if we can rebuild a hundreds chart. Not necessarily in straight rows. Done this with several kids. Love it every time. So more curriculum materials. We made a counting to 120 chart. I will also tell you that APH's made one. Love theirs as well. We have templates for bingo, for Connect 4, game cards, and problem set. We also created some place value charts because I think that's, we're going to see one on a slide in just a minute, but I think that's just something really, it's just like another very concrete way for our students to learn about place value. Roll and race game cards, shape activities. So even though these in the curriculum are available only in Nemeth Code, they are super easy to modify or recreate using UEB Math Science. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Project Inspire 2 later in the presentation, but the University of South Carolina Upstate, we were awarded in late last summer a second Braille training grant that we're still like shouting from the rooftops about because we're so excited about. And so for the next 5 years that we are going to be creating more materials, and it's going to be professional development materials for teachers, paraprofessionals, families, and then we're also going to be creating more student events. So our very first, oh, wait a minute. So this is not the slide about the Mathlete competition. Okay, it's coming. Sorry, I'm now looking at it. This is the Nemeth in the Box one. So Nemeth in the Box is one that we did with the first Braille training grant. And so all the materials are completely available online. In year 2, we will be putting all the materials in. They're already transcribed in UEB. We just have to finish everything up and get those posted. But what happens is that you get to, students learn the Nemeth Code symbols in a math context through puzzles and games. So we, when we got our first Braille training grant, literally we were awarded in the fall of 2019, and we planned to do everything online. We had no idea there was going to be a pandemic. So we were probably one of the very few projects where like, wow, we're really set up well for this because everything was going to be online. And so what we did throughout the 5 years is that we offered programs for students on Saturday mornings throughout the year. And so this is from one of our events. Whenever we get finishes, we post all the materials so that you can use those with your students as well. So this was actually one of our favorite activities. And so this is something that I'm noticing that I think everybody has access to the chat. So which one doesn't belong? And this is from lesson 2. So this was pretty much for middle schoolers, but we started off with the first week really reviewing some of the symbols to make sure that we were all in the same place. So we played which one doesn't belong every time. And so what happened is that they read the expression in each of the 4 quadrants, and the students would, and then they share which one doesn't belong and why. So the great part about this, y'all, is there are no wrong answers. As long as mathematically your reasoning is true, you're right. And so this is the cool part. I actually thought we could do this together today. So the 4 quadrants, I'll go ahead and read them. The top left, 0.5, top right, 0.25, bottom left, 0.75, bottom right, 0.3 repeating. I wonder which one doesn't belong. I think one of you, if maybe a lot of you may know this. Which one doesn't belong? Let's see which one. Oh, we already have one. 0.3 repeating. Oh, why do you say that? Oh, wait a minute. There's another one that's saying 0.3. Why do you think 0.3 repeating doesn't belong? Because everybody's agreeing. Is it because it's the only, it's irrational? And it's the only repeating decimal. Yes. So yes, that would have totally been it. But then what we encourage students after that, I'm sorry, but that's not the only one that doesn't belong. What else doesn't belong? Oh, 0.75. And let's see why. Because it's, oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I just lost it because it's, and I can't see. Oh, it's the only one more than 1/2. That's so true. Yep. 0.75. You're out of there. You don't belong. That's exactly it. Oh, we just got a new one. I wonder what else doesn't belong. 0.3. It isn't a value. Oh, wait a minute. This is about an arcade game. Ooh, they really like this. Not a type of a, isn't a value. Oh my. Okay. I can't see the rest of the response. But it was something about the arcade game, and it would be true. Is that 0.3 repeating is probably not going to help you with an arcade game or getting to play an arcade game. So you kind of see the gist of the game. And so what we would do this is with every time with whatever new symbols we were learning is we would be able to talk about this. And so the really cool part about it is that the students got to share why they didn't think they belong. And then it was really cool because, like, let's say that sometimes we'd have like 4 different reasons why students thought something didn't belong, and they were all mathematically true and they're all right. And so they really, really enjoyed that. So
Isn't
I'm gonna
it
turn it
fun?
over to
See
Chris.
the easy ways to learn and have kids have fun with math and with Braille. It's so awesome. So we wanted to share some other items, and hopefully you are already aware of these items, but again, if not, hey, we're here to help you learn. The Draftsman Tactile Drawing Board is a great way to integrate quick tactile shapes for students as they're learning different math symbols or shapes, other things that they need to have tactile and easily accessible. Tactile Doodle is a similar type of a device. And then you have the tactile 5 and 10 frames, which is great for students, especially young students who are counting to tens or counting to fives or counting more fives, depending on how many frames you have. But a great way to engage students in learning and getting their hands busy counting the different objects that are placed in front of them. More hands-on materials. There is the Geometry Tactile Graphics Kit that is from APH, has both early and more advanced concepts for the students, and it includes common graphics used in geometry class. So again, a great opportunity for students to have quick hands-on access to different tactile shapes and designs to help them understand concepts as they're learning the concepts before they learn them in class, as they're learning them in class, and as they're working on homework and assignments within class. Math window is another great one. You've got the magnetic tiles, and who doesn't like magnets? Magnets are pretty cool. Students can move them around to create different mathematical equations. Teachers can move those around as well and have the students work to solve those problems. And that's a fun way. And it's available in UEB Math and Science and Nemeth Code within UEB Contexts. If you have students who are learning how to round decimals this year or next year, typically a 5th grade skill level, APH number line device works well with teaching students to round to decimals. You can use, if as needed, you can use wiki sticks or pop dots or something like that to mark on the APH number line so that the students can see where they're at. And if they're going to round up or round down, you can use additional wiki sticks or pop dots to help the student as they're working through a math problem. Graphing. Graphing is a fun way for students to compare, contrast, to identify different lines, where these lines intersect. And our students need to be able to experience graphs as well. You can go back to the generic cork boards and push pins with rubber bands and that. You can also use APH's graph paper, the tactile graph paper, and you can use different components from the APH graph benders, which provides a variety of different shapes and sizes that the students can use so that they can create a graph based off of coordinating planes that they have access to, or you can create a graph and have them identify where they intersect the X or the Y axis or the different areas within the graph. So a great hands-on opportunity again for our students to learn math. And who doesn't love bingo? Bingo is awesome. This, if I remember correctly, is a bingo card from Project Inspire, and you'll see that this one is in Nemeth, but again, you could very easily create this in UEB Math and Science. Looking at, an APH, you've got the APH embossed graph sheet. You take that APH embossed graph sheet, you identify, you Braille on it, the different symbols that you want the student to focus on within the bingo that you're going to be playing, and you provide them with Skittles or M&Ms or some kind of marker so that they can mark what items are on their bingo card, and you can play away. And these can be never ending because there's so many different things, that so many different symbols that you can place on these so that the students have an opportunity to practice and acquire a better understanding of the different math symbols. A fun game because really, we all love bingo. And then there's Braille Brain. Hopefully all of you have heard of Braille Brain. If you haven't, let us introduce you to it. So the project is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Education Rehabilitation Services Administration. The funding was awarded to California State University, Los Angeles campus in collaboration with the American Printing House for the Blind. It is a free self-paced tutorial that you can access via the link that is provided on the handouts. They have a UEB foundational course that you can complete. They have a foundation of assessments. They have a Nemeth course that you can complete, and they are working on, I'm not sure exactly what the status is, but they are working on UEB Advanced or UEB Math and Science. That said, if you access Braille Brain and you go into the UEB Foundation course, it does cover numbers, and as you get down into now I have to remember which one it was. Unit 10 introduces fractions, mixed numbers, and slashes, grouping signs that are used in UEB Math and Science. What were the other ones? Shapes and omissions, geometric symbols. So there are some mathematical components within the UEB portion of this, and hopefully as they bring out the UEB Advanced, obviously there will be even more content specific to that within this, but again, it's free. You can do it as you have time, and it's a great system that they have put together to help review UEB, review Nemeth, and learn or review UEB Math and Science.
So a little more about our new Braille training grant. Project Inspire 2. So access and equity in STEM education for individuals who read Braille. So we are going to continue to build on the work of our original Project Inspire. All of the materials that we have developed previously are still online. And so what's going to happen, we already have 7 courses. We will be developing 8 additional courses, and then creating 4 additional student programs. And some of them will be more science, some will be more engineering, and some will be math related. And so what's going to happen is that we're going to revise the courses we already have to make sure that we update the Nemeth ones that we're completed before our code book, and then also to add more UEB Math Science. And so we hope that you will sign up for our mailing list and learn more about what we're going to offer. We'll start actually offering these courses next fall. So it's going to take us a little while to get everything kind of rebooted and updated and ready to go. So we'd love for you to join our mailing list if you're not already on it. And so the one that I was getting ahead of myself beforehand, the Math League competition. So I'm so excited. We actually had a pilot Math League competition last spring, and we had 32 students from across the United States and Canada participate. And I'm really hoping we're going to at least double our numbers this year. We are ready. So what's going to happen is in March, we are going to release registration information. This is going to be open to any students who read Braille in the United States or Canada from grade 6 through 12. We're actually going to host a webinar to tell more about the Math League competition on March 25th, and you are very welcome to join us. So when the students come, they compete in 4 different rounds. So the first one is the sprint round. And so it's multiple choice. So what happens is that, first of all, the math problem is written in words, and then the A, B, C, D, they have to figure out which one is the correct one. And y'all, there are tons of them. So it really is sprint. How fast can your fingers fly over the Braille and find the right one to move to your next one? The second round is you solve it round. And so with this, because this is not, it's a Braille and math competition. So literally that's exactly what they're doing. So if they read in Nemeth, that we have that. If you read in UEB Math Science, we have that. So what happens is that we give you a series of math problems and you're given a certain amount of time to finish all of them. And then there's a you write it round where we give them the problems and they have to write it depending on whichever code it is that they use. And then the relay round, which I was amazed at how many of them really like the relay round. So what happens is you have to use your answer in the previous problem in your next problem. So this is the part about it, is that you have to be really accurate, because if you just miss one, it goes into the next problem, you can miss several. So what we do is we have kind of a reset point in the middle. So even if you get off by one, hopefully it's a chance for everybody to kind of get reset and have a second chance if you need it. So it's exciting. We have, there's a junior mathletes, and then there's the senior mathletes, and we have 3 places, first, second, and third for each of the different groups. So, okay. So we're going to come back to questions, but I'm very excited to share about how your students can participate. We would love for them to participate. So the 7 professional development courses that are free, self-paced online, and so you do them at your convenience. Everything is there. And so what we do is that everything's online, and when we officially offer them next year, is you actually can get ACVREP CEUs. But even before we offer them, they're still all online and you're welcome to take them. About half of them are actually about the code, and then the other half is all about methods and materials that we can use in STEM instruction for our Braille readers. And so what I really like today, we just had a really quick clip, but what we would do is sometimes is that we would actually show you, here's one, and actually this is how you could use this in this activity. And so it's even a little bit more in depth, but what I like about it being totally self-paced is that, we hear that people really like that. So if you want to wear your jammies at midnight and be working on it, you're welcome to.
So in 2023, the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance Network came out with a guidance document for IEP teams regarding the 2 math Braille codes. And we just wanted y'all to be aware of just a statement that they included. They said that UEB and Nemeth are different codes, but they are simply different ways of representing the same things. Children will learn to read, write, and do math and science no matter which code is chosen. So given that statement and all of the resources and materials that we've shared today in response to some of the barriers noted from our survey, we just want to mention that consistency is key for our students. Every student should have access to high quality and timely instruction in the code that has been selected for them. And every student should have access to high quality and timely instructional materials in the code that has been selected for them. If the United States is to be successful supporting student instruction given the choice of the two math Braille codes, relevant entities, including BANA, APH, TSBVI, Perkins, university faculty, etc., we must all work together to create high quality materials for students, resources for TVIs and other professionals, including textbooks and other student assessments in both math Braille codes. We've left our information here if you want to contact us regarding any of the information that we've shared today. We also wanted to put a plug in for some of the other research that we are doing. Right now, we are conducting a survey exploring how TVIs learn to produce image descriptions and teach their students to use them effectively. So if you guys are interested in taking that survey or know someone that might be interested, we'd really appreciate your responses so that we can prepare our students better and make sure that our teachers are prepared to work with students and teach them appropriately and effectively.
And
I
just
don't
to
think this has
plug
ever
on,
happened in my life that we are this early, but the good news is, y'all, we have lots of time for questions.
Absolutely. And, you know, Tina, at the very beginning, actually, Alexis, when you were speaking in the beginning about the survey, we had a question. Was there an indication in that survey that you were talking about in which TVIs work at a school for the blind and those that are in the public schools are itinerant?
We did not ask that question. We were more focused on whether TVIs were working in an itinerant setting versus a classroom setting.
Okay. And just one other question that has come in as well. This goes back to Mathlete. How do students participate, or when will more information come out about that?
So registration will open up the first Monday in March because the competition itself is not till May 10th. And so what happens is that we'll have 2 Saturdays in April. One is about strategies and like math tips. And then later in the month, we have a practice session. And then on May 10th, we actually have the competition. And so, what we will say that if Saturdays don't work out for your students, we also will do like kind of like make up times with them. So that's the one part you're like, oh, even if like when the dates are published and you're like, oh, they can't make, they can make most, but not all. We will absolutely work with them if they want to participate. And I will say that if your students, let's say that if they need like an interpreter or if they need a small group setting for the Mathlete competition, we will absolutely work with them to make sure that it happens. And like I said, it's part of this is about math, and then part of it's about the Braille code. And so, like, I can tell you that what we're doing, the tips and the strategies, is that what we've been working with Susan Osterhaus and Sarah Larkin is to really look at what were the errors that we were seeing made last year from those 32 students. And so, how can we really prepare everybody to be successful? Well, I will tell you part of that was order of operations. And so the really cool part by us, like working together on our, how do you solve problems using information about order of operations, really is not only going to help them in the Mathlete competition, it's going to help them in the math classroom as well. And so that's exactly what kind of our goal is let's come and let's celebrate math and Braille, but then also let's make sure that we're building those skills so that they're ready to be real successful in our math classroom too. So right now we just have, basically we have the save the date. So if you go into the Mathleap page on Project Inspire, right now it's the save the date, but everything will be posted on, I believe it's March 3rd. I will double check really quick, but it is that first Monday in March. Yes, it is March 3rd. And so what happens is that we actually mail all of the information. And so that, yeah. So anyone's welcome to participate. There's no cost for them. It's part of our grant, and we would love for their students to be a part of it. And so if they can go back to the website on that first Monday in March, all the information will be there. And then on March 25th, we're going to have, it's really an information session, but we're talking TBIs, parents, even older students. Do they want to come join us? Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Here's a question. When it comes to state assessments, is there any guidance for which code the assessment is supposed to be provided in? How would you answer that?
So I'm happy to take it. Would you, is that okay? So the part to me that whenever we are talking about a student assessment, it should always match what's happening instructionally with the student. And so if they've been using UEB Math Science in their classroom, then of course that's exactly how that state assessment should be. If they've been using Nemeth Code, then it should be in Nemeth Code. And so, this is the way I look at it, is that our students really should have opportunities so that their assessment matches what's happening day in and day out in the classroom for them.
Great.
And when that's not happening, I think that's when we really can be advocates for our students. And sometimes it really does take that. But what I will tell you is that I have seen some really, we're talking some big changes. Not going to call them out, but there was a major testing organization that was only going to produce their test in one Braille code. And because of the advocacy work is exactly why now it's offered in both codes. And so this is the part, if you ever have a student who needs a test in a certain code and they say it's not possible, is I really say is advocate and kind of push back, because our students deserve equitable access to assessment materials just like every other student.
Great. Some other questions that have come in. This may have been covered already. This person wrote, how do you decide whether to choose UEB Math or UEB Technical or Nemeth for an elementary student? How do you go about that?
Chris, you want me to? Either way? Are you saying go ahead? Well, I think it's really going and let's looking at what is best for that student. So I can give you some examples. I happen to live in a small state, and we decided at the very first that kind of there would be this default of Nemeth Code. But what we've always said is that we know that we live next door to North Carolina, that we're going to have students that come to us from North Carolina. And if they have learned already UEB Math, we're not going to switch them. And then that's why even before we had our first student, that we made sure that, we're addressing that people are learning UEB Math Science. And so I think it's really looking at, number one, does your state have any guidance? But beyond that, even right now, let's say that here I am in a kind of Nemeth default state, but let's say I have a student and I think that, wow, that, it's been kind of we're really just learning the UEB numbers. And I'm afraid that if we try to drop them, that might be confusing. I might not. I may stay with UEB. And so I really think it is looking at what's best for each individual student, because from what I'm seeing is that both codes go up to the highest levels of math, that there's really not a right or wrong, except for what's appropriate for that student.
And how about, is there work towards a unified math code instead of two different codes?
So I'm not hearing that as much. I really thought that might happen, But I think that I don't anticipate that, at least in the next decade or two, or maybe even longer. And why I say that is that we just have an updated Nemeth Code, right? That they literally spent hundreds of hours developing and all of these great resources. And then UEB right now with the math science, I'm on this listserv and just hearing these fantastic discussions that they are having, because they are trying, like Chris was talking about the grade 1 indicators, where they're trying to build more consistency and to make sure that it really goes seamless for individuals who are using the code. So there's a lot of work on both. I really see that both are going to be options, at least in the foreseeable future. I don't see us moving to one code at this moment in time. So I'm really hoping that we'll continue to support both codes. So regardless of whatever's been decided for any one student, that we're really ready.
Mm-hmm. So this is, I know, been just a very hot topic in our field for several years. And it pertains, doesn't the SAT only provide the test in Nemeth Code? How would you answer that, and maybe what's changed or not?
I think that was the case at one point in time, but I'm not sure that that's the case anymore. I would certainly be asking for it in UEB Math. I'm pretty sure that you can. I'm not 100%. You know, Amy, that is something that we could research and get back with everybody, because I want to make sure that we get that right. Because I think a lot of universities use still the SAT. And so let's double check that. But my understanding that it was going to be available in both codes.
Okay. Please do, because the SAT is only in Nemeth and our state tests are only in UEB. So that was someone, I know that when the transition happened, that was a fierce battle that was happening, and trying to get the powers that be to listen. So what
I'm happy to follow up with you on that, because
great.
let's double check. But I do know, though, that there was some fierce advocacy work, and so I think that may have changed. If not, I think it is changing, if it's not already.
Okay. Just hold on one. I'm going to get ready to give the code at a moment.